quorum present in one location where the public can come. Under 3708, members of state-level public bodies could call in from a remote location if they follow the procedures to do so. Those remote locations would have to be open to the public. Part of this, I can tell you with history, this came out of a pilot project from decades ago. The idea then with the technology then is people would go to community colleges, public libraries, hotel conference centers, that sort of thing, because those were the places that were wired for these types of communications, and everybody didn't have a cell phone. Nowadays, everybody's got a cell phone, so they can call in from anywhere. And so as times have changed, so as the technology changed, and people said, the idea is now you wouldn't really necessarily want to open up your home, or if your car breaks down, you're on the side of the highway, you can't really have the public notice and sign, I'm here, help me, and please come to my meeting. That just wouldn't work. So the idea is mostly a recognition of the change in technology.
Madam Chair, just one follow-up.
Senator Rubin.
So right now, I guess this bill doesn't change it, who qualifies to have an electronic meeting? It's more than just emergency, right?
Yes. I'll try to put this as simply as I can. Under 2.23708, state-level public bodies can hold electronic meetings for just about any meeting they want to, as long as they have the quorum in one place, remote locations open to the public. They still have to have public notice and all that. There's one section of 3708 that also allows anybody to hold a public meeting by electronic means in order to respond to an emergency declared by the governor, and that's the one that doesn't have to have a quorum. And the example of that was Snowmageddon a few years ago, where people literally couldn't travel, but they had to do something to answer the weather emergency. Under 2.23708.1, this is the other procedural track. That has provisions where you've planned a regular meeting, but for some reason an individual member cannot come, and so that individual may call in. It's got provisions to call in based on a personal matter that prevents physical attendance, provisions for medical reasons to call in, and the last one is for regional public bodies only if the member lives 60 miles or more from the central meeting location. That one, again, has some other different heightened procedural requirements as well.
And final question.
Senator Rubin.
So if I read this correctly, this in no way makes it easier to have an electronic meeting. It just requires that you have a central place to go to.
No, Senator, I wouldn't say that. What it does is rather than have the remote locations where members of state bodies have to be open to the public, it just allows them to close it in exchange for the main body has to provide some other substantially equivalent means for the public to also see the meeting and witness the meeting electronically. So if anything, it should make it easier to witness a meeting.
Thank you.
Senator Black.
So as I understand it, basically, if you have one person who's in the hospital, it is not necessary to open the hospital room to the public. But then there's sort of a video available of that person who is transmitting in. That's not required.
It is not required there be a video of the person, and that's actually a real example. We used to only have the one procedure. There was no exception for medical things, and so you would have had to open the hospital room at one time in order for that person to call in. They added the second procedure to cover things such as the medical, where you don't want to open a hospital room.
I see.
Still allow the person to call in, but you wouldn't have to
to.
videotape it. No, one of the requirements would be just to put in the minutes the fact they were calling from a hospital room, calling in for a medical reason. You would not have to specify what the medical reason is, just the fact that that's why they were calling in.
And then the other thing that I read is that if 3 or more members are gathered at the same remote location, then it is necessary to open that portion
Correct.
to the public.
Yes, Madam Chair, Senator. The reason for that is that the definition of a public body includes any time 3 or more members of the public body, or excuse me, of a public meeting is any time 3 or more members of the public body are getting together to discuss or transact public business. And so the idea was for especially a larger body, you may have something like 7 members where 4 are the central meeting location and then 3 call in from another, and it looks like a meeting within a meeting because 3 can be a meeting by definition.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator Wexton.
Would this statute and these policies apply to all public bodies across the Commonwealth, or would each public body be able to come up with their own policies about what they deem
This
appropriate?
particular bill would only apply to state-level public bodies.
Okay. And Madam Chair, following up on that,
Senator Wexton.
could they set certain limits on like notice period in order to give your intention of your desire to participate remotely? Because I serve on some councils and commissions where it might be difficult to assemble a quorum in one location if everybody, if everybody opts in to not, come down to Richmond or not go out to another location.
Yes, Madam Chair, Senator, the current law in this section requires 3 working days' notice in advance of the meeting, just like a regular meeting of the body.
Okay, is there any member of the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill? Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill? Committee operates on a motion? Okay, the motion's been made and properly seconded to report House Bill 908. All in favor, please vote aye.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Okay, the next bill we have is House Bill 909.
Madam Chair, House Bill 909 is also a FOIA Council recommendation. This one is kind of a cleanup of inadvertent consequences within the section on law enforcement and criminal records. It clarifies who can use which exemptions and who's required to release certain information. There have been some situations where people have argued that some of the language currently restricts the use of some exemptions to law enforcement agencies only, where some of them, for example, apply to Department of Corrections, which is corrections rather than law enforcement. And also with non-criminal records, we've heard that at least one state agency that has nothing to do with law enforcement has been using that exemption, where it originally came from an exception strictly for local police and sheriffs. And so this would make it apply to law enforcement, but also other first responders because they also have non-criminal records.
Okay, does any member of the committee have a question? Does any member of the audience wish to speak in favor of this bill? Anybody in opposition to the bill? Clearly very controversial. Motion's been made and properly seconded to report House Bill 909. All in favor, please vote aye. Okay,
Ayes 12, noes 1, 1 abstention.
I'm going to go back up on the docket to House Bill 905, because I believe that you can also speak to that one.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 905 is actually in the Public Procurement Act rather than in FOIA, but it is a FOIA Council recommendation. Came out of our study of trade secrets and proprietary records and how they are treated. And all it does is it takes some current language from the Department of General Services policy manuals on procurement and adds it into the Procurement Act, so it codifies it to say, as the summary here says, it provides that you cannot designate as trade secrets or proprietary information the entire bid, proposal, or pre-qualification application, any bid that or proposal or pre-qualification application that does not actually contain trade secrets or proprietary information, or the line item prices, or the total bid, proposal, or pre-qualification application prices. Our understanding is that this is kind of a protection measure in case someone designates the entirety of a bid as being proprietary or a trade secret.
Okay, is there any member of the committee who has a question? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill? Is there anybody in opposition to the bill?
Move to report.
Okay, the motion's been made and properly seconded to report House Bill 905. All in favor, please vote aye.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Okay, Amico, am I correct that he can also handle House Bill 923? Or is that something totally different? Seems to be, that's totally different, correct? Okay, I thought so. Okay, thank you very much.
You are welcome. And Madam Chair,
Is there any other, is there anything else on our docket that you would like to speak to?
I will
Since you're
note,
doing such a
there is
bang-up
one
job
other-
here.
There is one other FOIA bill on the docket. It is not a FOIA Council recommendation, but I do know what it is. It's House Bill 727.
Okay,
And that one comes from DRPT, and it references federal regulations, where currently it refers to a specific section in the Code of Federal Regulations. My understanding is the federal regs are going to change their codification, so they're planning to change the numbering. And so they want this bill in place beforehand so that it's broad enough to cover whatever the feds do as changes without actually changing the substance of the exemption.
Okay, is there any member of the committee? Doesn't seem to have an issue. Is there any member of the committee who has a question for the patron? I mean, for the outstanding stand-in for the patron. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill? Or is there any member of the audience who wishes to speak in opposition? The motion's been made and properly seconded to report House Bill 727. All in favor, please vote aye. Okay, thank you very much for helping us dispose of those bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, amigo, am I correct that we should take up House Bill 923? Okay, are we comfortable with having him speak? Okay, we're going to take up House Bill 923. That's Delegate Bulliva's bill, but I believe we have somebody here who can speak on behalf of Delegate Bulliva. So if you'll direct your attention to 923. Chip, if you would like to come forward. Second. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is just a,
Oh, my gosh, sorry. Did not realize the chair himself.
let me explain the bill,
Sorry, I
Mr.
did
Chairman.
such a good job.
So what the bill does is there's no opposition to the bill. All the stakeholders have worked it out. What the bill does is to basically establish on the one-page form that DPOR has, the Common Interest Community Board, it just specifies a number of different things that folks should look at when they're considering buying a home in a condo or in a property owners association. And then the technical amendment is to basically just conform the new language to the language in the existing law that talks about a completed form as opposed to a form that's not completed. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for anybody? Is there anybody in the audience wish to speak against the bill? If not, we have an amendment to add to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment is on line 135 on page 3. After a copy of the insert fully completed.
Someone wish to move, properly moved and seconded that amendment be added to the bill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, any
Move
comments?
forward as amended.
All right. House Bill 923, record your votes. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
okay. Amigo, any more that we can handle?
Mr. Chairman, there are a couple that are identical to bills that I had, if you'd like to. And there may be others as well.
What numbers are those?
You got them. Thank you.
Just in case. Okay, all right. Okay. Any other bills that we can handle? Okay. Then the committee will rise.